So at any rate, so this is where it is. Yosef is in prison. Parshas MIKETZ opens up that Paro has a dream. There's two dreams: fat cows, skinny cows, fat ears of corn, skinny ears of corn. Grain. Okay, they translate it all as corn. For those who didn't put the two and two together, the word corn and grain come from the same root. Okay, corn was always used as the staple grain of the locale. I don't know if people understood that. And therefore, when they came to this continent and they found there was wild maize growing, wild corn, they called it corn, which is really the same root as grain, even though it's obviously not the same family. Corn is corn. What we call corn is corn. What we call grain is wheat and barley and other spelt and so forth. But the term corn or the root of corn is the same root as grain. I don't know if people can hear that. Corn, grain. Okay, not sure. Okay. In fact, where they would actually pound the wheat was called gorin. That was where they would actually, the threshing floor, where they would thresh the wheat. And gorin, you probably can hear, is the same root as corn, gorin, grain. It's all the same root, probably goes back together. Surely corn and grain go back to the same root. And by the way, and that's also the same root as kernel. Okay, this is your linguistic lesson for today. Kernel comes from corn, which comes from grain. It's all the same root. All I'm saying is the term corn, which we use today, of what you get those ears of corn, which is very specific, was a generic term referring to the grain of the locale. In the case of Paro, when they all translate as ears of corn. As grain. Okay, so they gave the right translation. The old King James version was ears of corn, and as kids we always thought of corn on the cob and growing up, and that's not really correct. It's really wheat. Okay?
Yeah, that's what I was going to show you.
Oh, that's what you're going to show me? Okay.
I always heard it was wheat.
Right, it is wheat, because corn means grain. Okay, so there's seven ears of grain and 7 years of fat ears and skinny ears. There's 7 cows and fat cows, 7 skinny cows, and the fat cows are swallowed by the skinny cows. The fat ears of grain are swallowed by the skinny ears of grain. Paro has a dream and doesn't know what's going on. Then the Sar HaMashkim, who was saved, says, you know what, there's some little Hebrew guy who knows how to interpret dreams. Then Paro says, bring him up, and Yosef interprets the dreams of Paro. Yosef says there'll be 7 skinny years followed by 7 fat years, 7 years, the other way around, 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. And Paro says, well, we need someone to look after that. Or Yosef says, you need someone to look after that. And Paro says, it's going to be you. So Yosef is placed as the viceroy, placed as the one who's in charge of distribution. And that's where the story picks up, that Joseph is now ensconced as the viceroy, the one who's in charge of all this grain collection and distribution. And then in chapter 42, page 232, the people in Canaan, Vayar Yaakov ki yashev b'Mitzrayim, Yaakov hears that there is grain, there are provisions in Egypt. He says to his sons, what are you hanging around here? Why are you making yourself conspicuous? Go down. Apparently Jacob and the family had some grain, but the others did not. So they go down. Who goes down in verse number 3? The 10 brothers of Joseph go down to purchase grain among all the other people. And who do they not send? So Jacob does not send Benjamin along with them in verse number 4, because he was afraid Pen Yikra or son. He had lost Joseph. He didn't want to lose the younger brother of Joseph. They come to collect grain. They stand in line in verse 5 and 6. And Yosef in verse 7 is the Shalit al Aretz. He is the one who is the viceroy over the land. He is the one who is the provider. And the brothers come and bow in front of him. Okay, and here we come to verse 7 and 8 and 9 are the key verses. We're going to look at the Ramban.
So, question that bothers me. I can't remember what was our explanation when we said Yosef was Ben Skunim.
Yes.
When he's not actually, because Benjamin is.
So Benjamin, I guess, was smaller. So we also said, by the way, that Ben Zekunim, according to Ibn Ezra, I think, is called Bar Chakima. Zakein is not only seen in halachic and Jewish tradition as an old person, but Zakein sometimes, as we talk about the elders, the Shivim Zakeinim, they're not just old in years, they're also old and wise. In fact, the Lashon of the Gemara says that Zakein is a notricon. It's kind of like almost abbreviation. Zakein is from Zeh Shekana Chachma, this one who acquired wisdom of the years, wisdom of life experience.
Still, the question remains.
So therefore, Yosef, he was obviously clever. Yaakov realized that he had certain cleverness and certain wisdom, and therefore he chose him to be the assistant for him. Maybe Binyamin did not really present it that way. So that would explain why he chose Yosef and not Binyamin. Okay, or the simple pshat is Binyamin was much smaller and younger, and therefore he wanted someone who could look after things. So for himself. So they are there. So what do we have in verse number 6? Yosef is the viceroy. Verse number 7, the brothers come and they bow before Yosef. Yosef in verse number 7 says, "Vayar Yosef zachav vayakirim." He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him. Vayimakir alehem. He makes himself strange. Vayidaber itam kashod. He speaks with them angrily, difficulty, and he says, "Man, Batim, where'd you come from?" And they said, "We came from Eretz Canaan, l'shpor ochel. We came to buy and get food." Yeah, and then once again, verse 8, Vayakir Yosef v'dechav hein kiru. He recognized the brothers. They didn't recognize him. Why did he recognize them? Why did they not recognize him? Why did they recognize him? Why did he recognize them? They did not recognize him.
Maybe they what they were wearing.
Maybe what they were wearing, they looked like the way they always looked. He looked like an Egyptian. So Rashi suggests that, when he left, he was a lad of 17. His beard wasn't fully filled in. And here he is, all these years later, he looks like a full-grown, heavy-bearded first person. The change between adolescence and adulthood is more drastic than it is between adulthood of 25 and adulthood of 40.
But in Egypt they had beards?
Well, I guess Yosef did. I guess he had some kind of beard. Or maybe he just looked a little bit different. I said, once again, the changes you have between, you look back at your high school pictures, you say, that was me? What a nerd, right? But you look back at a picture, right? You look back, wedding pictures is once again, it depends how young you got married, correct? But if you look at a picture from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you'll recognize how you are, as opposed to looking at pictures much, much younger. So therefore, the change between sometimes childhood and adolescence to a mature face is more drastic than it is in adulthood. Okay, and just by the way, in terms of your growth patterns, you grew a lot more between childhood to adulthood. Than with adulthood, you tend to grow horizontally more than vertically, correct? But also the other thing that changes, and this is really true, a child, the relationship percentage-wise of skull to the rest of the body, the skull is much larger compared to an adult. Your body grows much quicker and much larger and much bigger than your skull does, because your skull is confined by the bones of the skull. There's some growth, but as a result of the proportions, you can see a picture and you will probably guess this is a picture of an adolescent, picture of an adult, a picture of a child, not so much by the way the person looks, but just by looking at the proportions of skull to the body. All I'm saying is there's a lot more growth that takes place in childhood and adolescence than there is in adulthood to adulthood, early adulthood to late adulthood. So therefore Yosef recognizes them, he recognizes the older brothers for sure, and they don't recognize him. And then in verse number 9, this comes the kicker pasuk. We're going to have to explain this here. Vayiskor Yosef et hachalamot. Yosef remembers the dreams that he dreamt for them, and he says to them, Me'ayin basem. He said to them, Raglim atem, you are spies, you came to see Ervat Haaretz. And the brothers say, no, we're really here to bring food, and we're children of one father. And he said, no, you're here to be spies. And they say, well, we're actually 12 children, 12 brothers, and one is not here, and the younger one is together with our father. And Yosef says, no, you are really liars, and we're going to not let you go until you actually can prove your statement by bringing down your younger brother. Okay, so the key here to this give and take is that Yosef says that you guys are, he remembers his dreams. Somehow the dreams trigger some kind of introduction to what happens with the discussion between the brothers. Is the narrative clear? Okay, let's take a look at the Ramban. Here's Rambans. There's some Rambans here, Hebrew English. Here's my Hebrew English, okay. Here we go. Let's see if we have enough to look around, share together. Maybe one or two short. Okay. So we're going to look at the Ramban. We're going to look at the Ramban in verse 7, 8, 9 in 42. 42, verse Ramban 7, 8, and 9. We're going to try to go through this. Okay. Chapter 42, verse 7. You all got different page numbers. Perik Membed, you found it? Membed, Pasuk Zayin. Okay. We good? Good. Okay. Vayar Yosef v'dechav kirum. Yosef saw his brothers and he recognized them. So the pasuk tells us what page you want, Philippe? You don't have it yet. 42. LXI is what? Is 41.
42.
That's LXI. LXII. Alex. This is 6. And should be the next page. Yes?
Yes.
7. Okay, page 510. Okay, 510. Okay. So Yosef sees the brothers Vayakireim. So says the Ramban, Miyad Shiro Tamikirom. As soon as he saw his brothers, he recognized them immediately. And he was really actually concerned, says the Ramban, something you didn't think about. He was concerned that maybe they would recognize who he was. And he didn't know how that was going to play out because he only had very bad memories of how his brothers had treated him. So what did he do? So the pasuk says he made himself look strange. So according to Ramban, what he did is he took his hat. He had some kind of royal hat, like a pharaoh's or semi-pharaoh's hat of some sort, and he pulled the brim down, or he pulled the hat down, and consequently he also changed Vishinat Smon. He changed his demeanor to be someone that the brothers would not really recognize. So he tries to kind of disguise himself, tries to hide his face in terms of presenting himself to his brothers. And he was actually, this is how he changed what he was. Rashi says, I'm going to skip the middle of this Ramban because I want to get the other Rambans. The end of this one in verse 7 of Rashi says, he didn't change himself physically, he changed himself to speak in foreign ways. And according to Rashi, it's not he changed himself, but he spoke like a stranger. And the Ramban says, Ve'eno nachon, this is not correct, because Ramban feels that Vayitnaker is something about changing yourself, changing what you look like, what you appear to be. Nachri is what we call a non-Jew, a Gentile, right? He's a stranger, but that's because he behaves strangely. He doesn't behave in a Jewish way. His customs are different. His traditions are different. That's why we use the term Nachri. But to behave like a Nachri is using a terminology in a way that's really not proper, says Ramban. Okay? That's the first piece. Question?
No, I'm sorry. Just more simplistically, I would say that you don't expect to find Joseph dressed as an Egyptian.
Correct.
Or to be not only that, but to be the viceroy of Egypt. So
True.
Even if you come into a room and you think, wow, I know this guy, but it can't be.
But didn't you ever see situations where you see someone on TV, movies, and the street say, oh, that looks like my Uncle Bill.
Yeah, that's right.
He looks just like my Uncle Bill. I thought for sure it was. No, but he wasn't dressed like your Uncle Bill. So the answer is sometimes there are facial features that are similar to what you're thinking of someone else. That's how you identify people. You identify people by facial recognition. There's a whole process now in technology using that as a way to let people sign in based upon facial. Everybody's face has got a little bit certainly different. As a result, he was concerned that if they didn't recognize him immediately because he's dressed like an Egyptian, they're going to say, that's a spitting image of our old brother Joseph.
Yeah, but it can't be because...
But it can't be. But that would open their questioning and discussions that they have in terms of trying to probe further. Remember, they never find out what happens to Joseph, but they do know that he was sold down to Egypt. They would never expect to find him in a viceroy. They expect him to find him rotting in a jail if he still was alive.
That's right.
But it was not out of the ordinary that he would find them somewhere in Egypt. In fact, according to the Medrashim, they're looking around for him as they come into Egypt. In one of the 2 trips, they begin searching for their brothers. A bit of remorse. Okay, verse number 8 in Ramban. V'hem lo hikiru. So, and it says they didn't recognize him at all. So it says the Ramban, shelo hikiru klal. They didn't recognize him. I'm sorry. They did not recognize him. And when Joseph saw that they didn't recognize him, he didn't have to put on his disguise. He could put his hat up. He saw right away there was no sense of facial recognition of who he was by the brothers. And Ramban says, why not? Why was it so clear that they did not recognize him? V'amru Rabbeinu, and the rabbis say, B'tama kara, lefi shenichum chatumei zakan. Because they left, when they separated from each other years before, the brothers all were bearded, all Jews were bearded, and he was not because he was a youngster, he was 17. What kind of goat hairs would he have when he's 17 years old? V'heim lo ki, so therefore, he recognized them. Okay, and v'heim lo hikiru, they didn't recognize him. She'atzami etzlam below chatimat zaken. He didn't go out with a chatimat zaken, means a completed beard. Chatima means a sealed, right? So when you talk about the first secondary characteristics coming out to a youngster, to a young lad, in that early adolescence or middle adolescence, the beard is just little pieces. right? It's very, like I said, touchy, right? It's patchy, right? I remember my kid when he turned 16, 17, he'd put his face into the coffee grinds, so he'd have the coffee grinds stick to the beard. He said, "Look, I've got a beard, okay." Only one of my kids did that. I won't tell you which one. Okay, now. But the bottom line was they try to look older, right? You try to look when you're young, you try to look older. When you're older, you try to look younger, right? So at any rate, that's called chatimat zaken, is when your beard is filled in. When you just have those chinny hairs, that's not chatimat zaken. That's just the beginning of a zaken. That's called secondary sexual characteristics. So now they found him with a beard. V'yatzal mitzo b'chatimat zaken. So the Ramban just simply points out this is true that Joseph underwent a physical change and they didn't recognize him. But he recognized them because they all went out. They were all bearded when he left. So Ramban simply points out that's not for every one of the brothers. So Ramban says, "V'hinei Yisachar Zvulun eino gedolim Yosef rak miyad." So the truth is that Yisachar and Zvulun are the younger of the sons born right before Joseph. They're not much older than Joseph. And therefore Joseph may not have recognized them because young Zvulun and young Yisachar would have undergone a drastic change. So why is it clear that Yosef recognizes the brothers? So the Ramban says, you're right. He might not have recognized the change, the older, full-bearded Yisachar and Zvulun, but they're all 10 of them together. So he surely would recognize the older 5, the older half of them. So once he recognized the older of the group, Reuven and Shimon, and some of the others, and he knew what they were because they had left. They were older. They were already adults. Joseph was 17. They are probably 10 years his senior, and now they're years older. So he would recognize them, and he would recognize the others who he didn't really recognize were part of the same group. And therefore he recognized all of the group together. And also, Ramban says something else. The Ramban says another point, that he recognized in his mind that they would be coming to him, because in Joseph's mind, this whole idea of the dreams was going to be carried out. They'll look after it. The dream would be carried out. So he knew in the back of his mind one day his brothers would show up. He didn't know when. He didn't know how. But he knew the dreams, and he knew the dreams meant that they would have to come to him when he was in a position of authority, because the dreams were, first dream was seven bundles were bowing down to the bundle, to his bundle. In the second dream, the sun, the moon, the stars were bowing down to him. So he knew that somewhere the dream would have to be carried out. And he knew where he was. He knew there's a famine. He knew the whole world is coming down. So one day he expected that the brothers would be there. So if they showed up, it wouldn't be a complete shock. On the other hand, they in their wildest dreams did not expect to see him as the viceroy. Even if they were to find him in Egypt, I said they'd find him in a dungeon somewhere. They'd find him as a slave somewhere. They didn't even expect to find him alive. So therefore, when it says he recognized them, they didn't even recognize him because it wasn't in their consciousness to even think who this was. They never imagined the kid they sold to be a slave. The Ishmaelim would take him down to the slave market, would end up being the shalit, be the viceroy. Okay, so that's the reason. So first of all, there's a physical characteristics that he would recognize them. Second of all, he knew they'd come down and he recognized them. The Ramban here is setting us up for the next Ramban about the dreams. Third pshat says the Ramban, V'yamar Rabbi Avram, the Ibn Ezra said, why did Yosef recognize them? V'yakireim, he recognized them. B'tchin le'kil shem echav, v'achar kem estakel b'chol echad v'ikiro. So Ibn Ezra says first he recognized them all as the group, and then he recognized each one who they were. So the 10 brothers came together. Probably wasn't common that 10 people would come together all looking alike. So he recognized these are my brothers, and he says, this is Reuven who looks a little much older, this is Shimon who looks much older, this is Levi, this is Yehuda, this is Yisachar, this is Zvulun. So the double recognition is he recognized the group, then he recognized them. Okay, so far so good. Question, comment? Let's go to Tess, because Tess is the key one here.
So he accepts Ibn Ezra's explanation here.
He says, Ibn Ezra is referring really to the fact that Yosef seems to recognize them in 2 different times. But the Ibn Ezra is saying that in verse 7, Vayar Yosef edachav vayakireim, he recognized them. And then it says in verse 8, Vayaker Yosef edachav, he recognized the brothers. So the Ibn Ezra is not really contradicting why and how he recognized them. The Ibn Ezra is more commenting why it says twice. So first he recognized the group, These are the Jews. These are the Jews. These are the people from Israel. This is my brothers. And then as they got closer, he recognized who each individual one is. Okay, but here let's come to Ted. This is the one I want to get to with you. Joseph remembered the dreams that he dreamed for them. What does that mean? This is verse number 9 in the Ibn Ezra. So Joseph knows, in the back of the Kitas Ramban, is Joseph knows these dreams will have to come true, and that is why. And Ramban will say this, but I'll just give it to you now up front. This is why Joseph never sent up to his father for all these years that he's the viceroy. You got to ask yourself. When he's a slave, he couldn't do this. But now, and how many years is he the viceroy? No, not 2. There are 7 years of plenty, and now there's the second year, or the second year of the famine. So there's 9 years. For 9 years, he can do what he wants. In fact, when he wants to bring his father down, he sends a bagalot, he sends up wagons, supposedly. So how come he never told his father? He knew where his father was. He knew where the post office was. He knew where he was living. Why didn't he really send something up to his father to try to connect with him?
Why indeed? There's no excuse.
There's no excuse. Now, I can give you another reason, by the way. The other reason that is suggested is he may have thought his father was trying to sell him too. Think in your mind. You're young Yosef. Father set him up. I said, go see how your brothers are doing in Hebron. Find them in Dotam. And he comes to the brothers, and the brothers ship him down to Egypt. He must have been saying in his mind, it's not just the brothers who hate me, the father really hates me. I'm going to get back at him. I'm finished with him. I'm not going to even contact him. I'm sorry?
No, okay, that's something.
that's something. I forgot which commentary says that, but the Ramban says no, something else. Ramban says Joseph remembers the dreams, and the dreams have to be carried out. So, do you remember what the dreams are? First dream was there were 11 sheaves, and when their sheaves, the brother sheaves, bow down to Joseph's sheaf, right? So the second dream is there's the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they all bow down to Joseph, not to the sun. The sun is Jacob. The moon we discussed is it going to be Rachel or Bilhah, as we're going to refer to the brothers, and then you have the 11 stars of the brothers. They're all bowing down to him. So there are 2 dreams. The fact that there were 2 dreams and they were separate means they both have to be carried out. So Joseph says in his mind, if these dreams have to be carried out, and there's a premonition of what the future will be, first I have to have a situation where the 11 sheaves bow down to me, before I go to the second dream where the sun and the moon bow down to me. So therefore, send for Binyamin. I have to have a situation where Binyamin is there with the other brothers bowing down to me separate. That's the first dream. I can check it off my bucket list. And then we can think about how to carry out the second dream. Once that happens, that everybody else bows down to me. So therefore, Joseph does not want to tell his father, because if he tells his father he's in Egypt, Father Jacob will come down and bow down or greet him before everybody else does, or with everybody else. The dreams won't happen in sequence. The dreams, as if to say that it's like when you go back these time machine movies, if you go back in time and you fix things up and everything else goes awry, what happens to the future? If you change things, you're monkeying with everything. So if you change the dream order, then all the Jewish people's future kind of goes haywire. So Joseph understands he's a messenger to carry out these dreams. He has a responsibility in the back of his mind to do this. This, by the way, assumes, and as we do, that Joseph maintains the traditions. Right? He's not assimilated. He understands he is a Hebrew. He's an Ishivri. He's a Nar Ivri. So therefore, because of that, he doesn't want to contact his father until the first dream carries out. The 2 dreams have to happen, and the 2 dreams have to happen itself. So the reason he comes up with this calumny, he says, you guys are a bunch of spies, you got to bring down your brother, was in order to make sure the first dream happens before the second dream. And the second time they come back, and he wants to, about the cup, the goblet, is really to protect Binyamin from the brothers. To make sure that they're all there when Father Jacob comes down, because he was concerned if he sent back brother Binyamin with the brothers all the way back to Canaan, he was actually afraid they may not bring Binyamin back. They may take out their anger and their frustrations, and then even if later he comes down with his father, all the other brothers will not be together. So this is how the Ramban presents it. Let's take a look at the Ramban. So Ramban says, Lahem, he dreamed for them, Alehem, on them. He remembers the dreams he dreamed about them. V'yodash nitkaimu. And Rashi says, he's quoting first Rashi, V'yodash nitkaimu shareish tachbulo. So Rashi says the opposite. That when he saw the brothers bowing down to him, he said that the dreams were carried out, says Rashi. Says Ramban, not true. How could you say this, Rashi? What you're saying, Rashi, it's reversed. It didn't carry out. Rashi said that the dreams were carried out when the brothers came to Egypt, and Yosef says, aha, the dreams are right. Says Ramban, no, ki omara katuv kibrot Yosef etzachav mishtachavim lo, because the pasuk says when the brothers bowed down to him, he remembered zochar kol hachalmot asher chalam lahem. He remembered the dreams he had about them. V'yodah shelo netkaim echad mehem b'pam hazot, and he realized that the first one or one of them was not carried out now. Why? Ki yodeh b'pitronam shekol echad yishtach v'lo b'tchila min hachalam rishon. From the first dream that he had, he knew the interpretation. It's very clear what the interpretation was, that all the brothers will have to bow to him. The 11 sheaves, including the sheaf of Binyamin, bowed down to him. It says, Vinei, this is now paraphrasing the first dream he has to his brothers. Vinei anachnu me'almim alomim, we are gathering our sheaves. Ki anachnu, we, yermoz l'kol echad achad asar. Means all of us, all of us together, all the brothers, the 11 of them, are bowing down to me. And only b'pam hasheni, only on the second dream, yishtachmu l'shemesh v'yarech v'achad asar kochvim. The second dream, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to him, which is the Chalam Hasheni. So v'cheven shelo ra Binyamin imahem, seeing he didn't see Binyamin with them, chashavet hatachbula shi'alil aleihem, he came up with this idea, this calumny, this made-up story, that he would accuse them, that they would bring Binyamin down, the first dream would have to be carried out first. And therefore says the Ramban, therefore he doesn't reveal himself to their brothers at this point. He doesn't. He plays along and pretends he's the viceroy. He says, you guys are a bunch of strangers, you're spies, you're here to spy the land. He doesn't say right away, go to I'm Yosef. Please go get my father and I'll send up the wagons. Like the second time when he finally reveals to them. Because if he said I'm Yosef, the father would come. And his father would come and would upset the order of the dreams. Only after the first dream was carried out, that Benjamin came down, and all 11 brothers were there, was he able to set up for the second dream to be carried out, that the father and all the rest of the Jewish people, the rest of the family, would come down the second time. And if you don't understand, if you don't accept this explanation, you must say that Joseph did a terrible sin, to cause pain to his father. That Jacob now is forced to kind of mourn or be bereft of Joseph. And what happens at the end of this first trip? He keeps back Shimon, one of them, and he sends only everyone except Shimon back. So now they come back. There's no Joseph. There's no Shimon. Jacob is kind of doubly mourning. So how could Joseph do this? Even if you assume that Joseph still had evil feelings against his brothers, he wanted to make his brothers feel pain. How could he not have mercy on his old father, the old years of his father? He did everything in its time to carry out the dreams, because he knew the dreams would be carried out true. That's why he does it. And then the Ramban says the second time they come down, what does he say? He loads them up. He says, well, the first dream was carried out. You guys go back. He sets up the situation where his goblet is put into the bag of Benjamin. You guys know the story. I don't have to do it again, right? Okay. He didn't do this to make tsar for the brothers when they came back. They go, oh no, I can't believe it. They have the goblet here is in Benjamin's sack. He was concerned when they came down a second time they'd have anger or hatred against Benjamin. They'll be jealous of Benjamin the same way they were jealous of him. Or Shema Hirgish Binyamin Shaya Yadam Ki Yosef and Odal Behem Knadav Usina. Or maybe he felt that there was going to be something that they would have against him, and there would be some kind of friction, like there was friction with him, and therefore Al Kain Lo Atzah Sheelech Imohem Binyamin. He didn't want Binyamin to go back with the brothers all the way to Canaan. Ulai Yishlechu Bayadam. and maybe they would hurt him. They would attack Binyamin until he checked them with their love, and he saw that they really stood up for Benjamin. So the whole story of the cup that happens in the end of Miketz, which goes into Vayigash, when he finally reveals himself to his brothers, is only reveals himself when he's convinced that the brothers love each other. And he sees how much they're willing to stand up for Binyamin. Yehuda says, if you don't send back Binyamin, none of us can go back. I'll stay here. So they recognized that there was this avat chinam between the brothers, not the sinah that he had experienced himself. And this is what it means. This is what the rabbi is saying. Bereshit Rabban Rachim Ba'aba Kol Advim Shato Koresh Diber Yudah B'fnei Achav Ad Shato Magiv Le'echol Etapeg Hayabo Pius Liosef Pius Lechad. Everything that comes up in the end of the parsha to Vayigash, where Yudah speaks, is a way to create some kind of appeasement to the brothers, appeasement to Yosef, peace to Binyamin, Pius Binyamin, Pius Yosef, and the Yosef was appeased. He saw how Judah was able to put his life on the line for Benjamin. So everything that happens here is really what's on that situation was to make sure that Benjamin would not be hurt. And now the Ramban summarizes the Chenu Omer. V'chein Omer says Ramban shekolin yonim ha'elu hayub Yosef mechachmato b'pitron chalamot. Everything that happened here was Joseph in his wisdom. You see, he was a wise guy, a clever fellow, from his wisdom to try to get the dreams to be interpreted. Kiyesh l'tmoa, because you got to really ask. Achar shamad Yosef mitzrayim yomim rabim. After Yosef was the viceroy for all these days, v'ya pakid v'nagid b'beit sar gadosh mitzrayim. He was the leader, the viceroy, the manager in the house of the sar gadol of Mitzrayim of Potiphar, and was assisting the Paro. How come he never sent a message to his father, letting him know? Okay, because it's not that far from Mitzrayim to Hebron. Is a travel by camel or donkey of 6 days. For us, it's hours. But if you travel by camel or donkey, you can do it. That's not a trip. Even if it was a trip of a year, how could Joseph not tell his father and tell what's going on? And he could really, the father was beloved to him, and he would do anything for the father, even if it cost money. But he saw he understood that the bowing of the brothers, the bowing of the father, the bowing of all the Israelites, could not be in Israel. And he realized that the bowing had to take place in Mitzrayim. It couldn't take place in Eretz Canaan, because why would they bow down to him? No, if he went up to Israel, he was on their turf. They wouldn't bow down to him. The only way they would bow down is if they came down to Mitzrayim. No, I guess sorry.
No, but if he's dressed up as the viceroy coming from Egypt, they would bow down to him.
Your father. I don't know. You're the father of the president, right? The president comes to visit you. President Trump. Maybe that's a bad example. Okay, if President Trump comes to visit his father. Does the father bow down to him? The only way that he would bow down, if there's a protocol when you come into the White House, you have to bow down to the president. So the father of the president would have to bow down to his son at the same time. But if President Trump came to visit his Alta Tata, the father wouldn't bow down to him, the son would bow down to his father. So all he's saying is that how is it possible that Joseph himself never traveled back to Canaan? And the answer is because he understood if the dreams are going to be carried out, that they have to bow to him. That's only going to take place in Egypt, where everybody bows down to the viceroy, where they all have to do that to give homage. So therefore, if he went back, they wouldn't bow down to him. They'd greet him warmly. They wouldn't bow down to him.
He didn't have to go back. He just said the word.
He could have. Okay. And surely after he saw the dream of Pharaoh, and he realized from the dream of Pharaoh, this meant the fat years, the skinny years, the years of plenty, the years of famine, which meant everybody was going to come down. He understood right away. He connected the dream of Pharaoh with his own dream. Okay, the Ramban says, we're not going to get a chance to do this, but the Ramban says that when Joseph interprets the dream of Paro, and he says, the fat cows, skinny cows, fat ears of grain, skinny ears of grain. So he says this fat years and skinny years. So then Joseph says at the end, let me just read you the verse very quickly. Joseph says, and now Pharaoh should choose someone. 1 second. So he says, first of all, this is going to be fat 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. And the dream is twice. Why is the dream written twice? Because it's really going to happen. The dream is repeated once with fat ears of corn, skinny ears, and one with fat cows, skinny cows, because it means it's definitely going to happen, and it's going to happen real quick. It's true from God, and God's going to do it very quickly. It's not a dream for the next century, it's now. And then Joseph says, after interpreting that, he says, and now Paro should choose a wise person and put him on top of Mitzrayim. And the Paro should make Pikidim, officers, and Chimeshadert Mitzrayim. They're going to tax to take 1/5 of the 5th years to put aside, and so forth, and pile up the grain, and it'll be there for the years of the plenty, so it'll be ready for the years of famine. And then Pharaoh says, well, who else can do this but you? So the Ramban says, why does Joseph tell the interpretation? Why does Joseph say choose a wise person? Where is that in the dream? So the Ramban says that's actually what the interpretation of the dream is. This is not Joseph adding his own part to the dream. The Ramban says the dream, in other words, part of interpreting the dream is just not about fat years and skinny years, fat cows, right? It's not just telling you what's going to happen. A dream is telling you what to do. The reason that God showed you these dreams is to tell you this is what, not I'm going to give you my advice. This is not my Eitzah, says Yosef. This is the interpretation of the dream. So Joseph believed, the Ramban believes, that Joseph's direction to Paro to choose someone, which Paro then says is going to be you, right, was part of what the actual dream was. So the moment Joseph saw that this fat cows and skinny cows, instead of this is the interpretation, this is what it means, he connected that with himself, which is what happens right away. So you will be the one who's going to carry it out. That's the dream is bringing Joseph in once again. It's not Joseph is vying for the job. He's submitting his resume. Joseph's saying, this is the dream. Paro says, okay, you're the dream. You do it. You interpreted the dream. You're the man. You're part of the dream. So then you're the guy who's wise. You interpreted it. You're the wise person. You'll do it. So therefore, if Joseph interprets the dream of Paro and puts himself into it, and he is part of that dream, and he had the other dreams with his parents, with his father and his brothers bowing down to him, the two dreams, so then he understands the two dreams, the two sets of dreams are connected. The two dreams he has with his brothers and his father is one set of dreams. The two dreams that Paro has is the next set. Both of them are intertwined. When's it going to happen that the brothers bow down to him? When the second dream happens with Paro with the fat years and the skinny years, with famine. So that's why he ensures that the father come. How's he going to ensure the father come down? First, he got the brothers bow down to him. Then he got to bring Benjamin a second time. Only after that happens, then the father can come down. If he were to go now and send the father down to come to Egypt, first of all, it would be out of whack. If we went up to Canaan himself, they wouldn't bow down to him. Nothing would happen. So the dreams are the future of the Jewish people. Just final word before we come to Nesivos Shalom. And that is, this is in line with the whole Ramban to say that all of Bereshis is about the future. Right? So Joseph dreaming the dreams is about what takes place. In this case, it's short-term future. But it's about the whole process of bringing the Jewish people down to Egypt, which is really going to lead into the story of Shemot, which will lead into the story of coming out of Shemot, which will get the Jewish people back to Israel. But the point of it being, this is the dreams of Joseph are a way to kind of move along Jewish history, as are a lot of what happens in Sefer Bereshit. Okay? Questions, comments?
Why was it? What was the role of the brothers proving their Havasina, the defense of Binyamin? What was that? How was that part of the dream?
So that they're all bound together. Okay. Let's see. I think I have enough. I might have enough. I might not have enough.
One thing which is causing me a little bit of a problem is if I had a prophetic dream, I wouldn't do anything. I mean, I wouldn't be sure the dream somehow would get fulfilled. I wouldn't work towards the realization of the dream.
I wouldn't work. You mean like when Joseph says?
Yeah, I wouldn't do. I mean, I would go on doing whatever I do. In that case, I would grab my father, and I would think.
You think the dream has to be on its own?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's how.
No matter what I would do, the dream will will get fulfilled.
Why do I have to set up the dream?
Right.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that.
So I guess Joseph realizes when he looked at how the story is coming out, he may have thought that when possibly he was in the prison. But suddenly he realizes now he's the viceroy, that's actually setting up the dream. In the back of his mind, I don't know, it's hard to say, we're reading this in hindsight. Once you know the end of the story, you say, well, this.
Yes.
But the assumption of the Ramban is that Joseph never gave up on seeing the dreams carried out.
Right.
So if your dream was that you'd have people bow down to you, what would you want to do? Because you don't have the power. Because you and I are simple people.
Right.
We would say that this is a dream that means nothing, and how would I even arrange this kind of thing? Send out invitations, make a bar mitzvah party, and in the middle I'm going to jump out of a cake, and everybody's going wow, and they bow down. You'd come up with some way to make it carry out too. Or if you were making a bar mitzvah, you would set up a way that this would. If you were making a bar mitzvah or a wedding, you would try, and you had this dream, you'd say, I want to set up the wedding to make sure that at one point in the wedding everybody will fall down and bow to me. You might do that. So Joseph doesn't really feel he can carry this out until he becomes the viceroy to try to carry it through. What the real tricky part of the Ramban is that Joseph feels that if he messes up the order of the dreams, everything falls apart.
If it's a prophetic dream.
If it's a prophetic dream, I can't mess it up.
No,
right?
No matter what, the dream will.
Then you get the message. Why did you get the power? Why did you get the power?
Right. Or you'd have to say that if you messed up the order of the dream, then the dream would have to be carried out in a different way. Right. If you assume the dream is a prophetic interpretation of what the future would be. Right. I understand the question. The question is, why was Joseph so concerned that he be the one to make the dream happen, let the dream happen on its own? Right. Maybe that's why he was the wise person.
No, because otherwise there was no explanation to why he got the power to be the viceroy.
True.
Why did he get all this power?
Yeah.
So he understood that he himself is part of the fulfilling of the dream.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. I don't know, but he must have felt that he was the viceroy for that reason, like Dan said, to carry out the dream.
Not only that, but we have to recognize that Hashem has got his hand in it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have to, theologically, we have to go back to that situation. That he's fixed everything. And now Joseph has to work around.
Actually, I'm hearing some parallels with the Rabban Nesivos in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you're feeling. We all, I think, have situations where we feel hashgacha pratis, like we feel we feel things are happening to us.
Right.
And there's strange things, and you can kind of see where they're going, but the difference is, and I think to your point, is that he needs to take action to make that, and that's what Yosef does, and that's I think what the title is asking of the Jews as well. That maybe Hashem is taking, inevitably Hashem will take you Jews there to Israel, but the Jews have to do something.
So I had a dream in the month of Elul that my tefillin were puzzle, and it was a very funny kind of dream because it's not just tefillin were puzzle, the batim were out of shape. And I said to myself, ridiculous, okay? But I kept thinking about it. So I actually did take my tefillin to a sofer. It's not such a great story. The tefillin were kosher, there's nothing wrong with the batim, there's nothing wrong with the parshios. But I was bothered enough by the dream that I said, I feel like, and especially in the month of Elul, you're supposed to have your tefillin checked anyway. It's a good time to have tefillin checked. So I really poo-pooed it for a couple of days until I couldn't get it out of my mind. And and the dream was a really crazy dream because the tefillin were like shaped like an L, like an upside down L. It wasn't square. The square got pushed out of shape, which had never happened, of course. But I felt enough about the dream to try to move the dream ahead that I should see what really would be there. So sometimes you have dreams and you feel the dreams have some kind of validity. In my case, it probably was just a dream. If it was a real dream, I would have seen it twice in a row, 2 different nights, right? It would have been angels speaking or something. But I woke up, I said, I never dream about tefillin. Like, who dreams about putting on tefillin? Do you dream about putting on tefillin? I don't know. So it bothered me enough that I really wanted to try to make through some activity to it, and I think Yosef said the same thing.
Maybe this is the proof.
Very good.
Maybe this is the proof of the importance of ishtadlus.
Yeah.
Right. How do you prove that you need to have ishtadlus? Look, even Yosef, who had the prophecy, saw the prophecy already happening, and still he pitched in. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to actually I want to do the last one first. This is the last 2 pages of the handout. Samach Chet. This is Nesivos Shalom the Slumber Rebbe. Okay, this one starts here on page Samach Chet on the bottom. Okay, it's a short one, but actually it's probably the best of the 3 that I have that I found here. This is Last page. It's right next to you. There you go. Okay, so it should be the last page. The page that looks like this. The page that says Samachet on the top. The last, it's stapled according. Yeah, we got it here. There we go. Okay, we're good. So there's an unusual term that talks about Chanukah. The mitzvah of Chanukah is we do the mitzvah of Chanukah with 8 candles, 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles, 4 candles, 5 candles, 6 candles, 7 candles, 8 candles. That is we've called that the mitzvah Mahadrin min HaMahadrin. Right? We've seen this. The lower level, in other words, the real level of mitzvah Chanukah is Ner Ishu Beito. 1 candle for the entire household. Everybody know what I'm talking about? We talked about this yesterday. So in other words, the real mitzvah of Chanukah is 1 candle on the first night, 1 candle the second night, 1 candle the third night, 1 candle the fourth night, 1 candle the fifth night, and so forth, 1 candle the 8th night. The bump up level is Mahadrin, which means 1 candle per person. 1 candle per person the first night, 1 candle per person the second night, 1 candle per person the third night. The Mahadrin min Mahadrin, which the Talmud talks about, is you increase from 1 to 8, or you decrease from 8 to 1. We followed when you increase 1 to 8. Tonight is going to be the third light. 3 candles you light on your menorah. Last night was 2. And in that machloket, we had a discussion between about Ashkenazim and Sephardim. Is it 1 menorah for the entire family, or is it 1 menorah for every individual? But the key here for this point of the Nesivos Shalom is that the mitzvah is called Ner Ishu Beito. It's 1 candle for a person and a household. That's a very unusual term. We talked about it yesterday. We did the Talmud, right? We don't see. You normally say like Ner LeMishpacha or something. It's called Ner Ishu Beito. And the second thing, this mitzvah, which is lit at the home, in your house, it's not lit. It's lit in shul as a minhag, really. We make a bracha, but the real place to light Chanukah menorah is in the bayit. This has a level of mahadrin. It's a level of mahadrin and a mahadrin. So not everybody is going to do it the same way. Today, everybody does mahadrin and a mahadrin because candles are so darn cheap. Right, 44 candles. What do you pay? Less than $1, or maybe $1. I don't know what you paid for them. And
they're on sale now at Metro.
There you go.
69 cents.
If not now, when will they be on sale? So in other words, you have this mitzvah. Supposedly, like for example, most mitzvahs people normally do the same way. Everybody has the same shofar. Everybody has the same Megillah. But this is a mitzvah that is given to us in a very basic mitzvah, which has to do with the bayit. Then you have a bump up level and a double bump up level. What is this all about? So this is what the Nesivos Shalom is going to say. The premise of the Nesivos Shalom is, and this is a very important idea in Chassidus, is that there are opportunities in the year that we can make change in different times. There are opportunities during the week, during the month, during the year, that there's certain powers that you can suddenly make difference and help us. So for example, the idea that the world was created in 6 days, and what happened on the 7th? Kadosh Baruch Hu rested. Do you work for 6 days to keep Shabbos, or do you keep Shabbos that you will work for 6 days? What's the answer to the question? Try it again. Do you work for 6 days to keep Shabbos? That's probably what most people say. The Nesivos Shalom would say in Chassidus, they would say the other way around. You keep Shabbos to give validity for the following 6 days. If I wouldn't keep Shabbos, the following 6 days couldn't really happen. They couldn't happen physically. They couldn't really happen in terms of spiritual significance. The Shabbos, it gives power to the renewal of the week. 6 days, you come to the end of the week, like we all feel like we're crashing when we come to Friday night, don't we? Because we don't have this feeling that this is the idea we're looking up to. Really, what Shabbos is a renewal of the world, a renewal of your spirit, that you can go another week. So really in Chassidus, you keep Shabbos to be able to work for 6 weeks. 6 days, thank you. You keep Shabbos to work for 6 days. The same thing, the way you have on the month has a month, right? You keep a month. At the end of the month, you have Rosh Chodesh. It gives power for the renewal. And as you may have heard, perhaps in not just Chassidus, but a lot of Jewish thought, the Jewish people are compared to the moon. We wane and wax. We have different times when we shine and different times when we're in sorrows. The sun shines every day, except in Toronto it's cloudy every day in the winter, but the sun is shining every day. The moon gets bigger and smaller. So the Jewish people are like the Levana, and that's why our calendar is a lunar calendar. We have times when God shines on us, gives light more. On times when we feel we're in darkness, there's a hest upon him. And Chanukah has a certain significance as well as a renewal. The renewal of Chanukah is really for renewal in the home. It plays a role, that's why the mitzvah is, it's a certain special power that the home is able to be reinvigorated. If there are home issues, this is the time to kind of bring it together. A family that, how does it go, celebrates Chanukah together. So this is the key to it, and the theme is, once again, that certain things happen every year again and again and again. So Chanukah is the time when you can have this ability to have this hischadshus of the chinuch habayit, of the Chanukah habayit, of the dedication of the household. So it says, let's go and read it together. Tan Rabban, it quotes the Gemara. Mitzvah Chanukah ner shebeito. This is the piece from the Talmud. Mahadrin ner l'kol echad, v'mahadrin min mahadrin. Beit Shammai Omrim is 1 to 8. Beit Shammai says 8 to 1. Beit Hillel Omrim Yom Rishon madlik achad. Mikan ve'elech mosi v'holech. So these are the three levels. The one level is ner shebeito. The second level is one for each person. The third level is 1 to 8, as we do it, but it could be per person. Yesh l'daktik b'lashon mitzvah Chanukah ner shebeito. How come we have to look? Why is it called ner shebeito? Mador lo ksiv l'chol bayit, ner l'chol bayit, a candle for every house. What's the care? One candle for a house. V'chein tzarach mir ma inyan mahadrin u'mahadrin min mahadrin. What do you have these different levels? Shnei marak mitzvah ner Chanukah. It's only with the ner Chanukah. Vein d'mato b'shum mitzvah shei bato fansha mahadrin b'nosav letzim kiyam mitzvah. You don't find that the Talmud talks about X level, Y level, Z level. We have chumras that people build into it later on. There's matzah, there's shmura matzah, but that's all later things. The Talmud never really talks about these kind of additional levels. Here you see that the definition of the mitzvah is based upon one level on the other. The inyan. And the reason is, says the Nesivos Shalom, Dihinei Hashem Yisbarach Natan Lisvos Manim Yuchadim Amsulgim L'Chitchadshut. God made certain times, repetitive times in the calendar, that are set for renewal. Such as HaShabbat who's manit chadshut. Shabbat is a time of renewal. As the Or Chaim says, Shabriya Hayta L'Shisha Yamim Bilvad. The world was created for 6 days. God's made the world for 6 days. That should have been the end of the world. And every Shabbat, God renews the world for another 6 days. It's like you have a lease. At the end of the lease, you got to renew it, or it's an automatic renewal. Automatic payments, for example, like on your bank cards. Without Shabbat, the world wouldn't go on after 6 days. It's not important whether you keep Shabbat or not. Shabbat gives validity to the world. You are a new person on Shabbat. That's why Shabbat has so much powers. Because of this reason, a person who keeps Shabbat, even if he worships idols, like the generation of Enosh, which discovered idol worship, Talmud says God forgives him. But keeping Shabbat, you are renewing the existence of yourself and the existence of the world. You come to Shabbat, if you keep Shabbat, you can change yourself for the next week. It's an opportunity to kind of do an internal retreat. People do retreats for weekends to make a new change for the week to come. Shabbat is the internal retreat. When you come to Shabbat, you have to pretend all your work is finished. Sometimes you're doing a deal and the deal's not done, right? And you have to wait and pretend for that Shabbat that the deal is finished. The deal's put on the back burner. Which is sometimes very difficult, but that's what Shabbat is. This also applies to spiritual things. It's not about physically renewing yourself, but spiritually you get renewal. Shabbat gives a person the ability to kind of be a new person spiritually, to raise out of their old spiritual routines. That's one hitchadshut. V'chein Rosh Chodesh hu Yom Hitchadshut, and Rosh Chodesh is also another hitchadshut. These are things come on frequently. Ki Yisrael monim l'Levana, we follow the moon. Shalvana mitma'etet v'olech hadash migal l'matzav sheleder. The Levana gets smaller until it's completely disappeared. U'kshebar Rosh Chodesh hu shuv Chadesh, and Rosh Chodesh is the first time. What's Rosh Chodesh? When you first see the first sliver. It's not actual conjunction. We've said this conjunction is when there's nothing. Right, the moon is completely blocked out. Rosh Chodesh is when they first saw the first sliver. The moon is beginning to get enlarged again. The same thing. Jewish people will have an opportunity to become renewed. Same way this happens for the Jewish people as a group. That we will have a time that we will become renewed, even if we're in the darkest despairs. For the Jewish people, will become renewed. That every person can also renew themselves. We have an opportunity, not only Shabbat, but a monthly cycle to become renewed, to start again. This is a quote from Musa from Rosh Chodesh. It says, "U'tshuat nafsha miyatzonei." The tshuah, the saving of the nefesh, will save it from the sonei. It doesn't say our tshuah is from a sonei. The tshuah of the nefesh which has fallen to a rut, can actually become renewed on Rosh Chodesh. B'chol Rosh Chodesh mafia he'ara mechudeshet. A new real lightning can come to the Yehudi. Lo shir nafsho miyad sonei nitzchi hayitzara. Okay, and therefore, v'yesh min zman hitchadshut b'Chanukah. Chanukah is another hitchadshut. Shema Chagu Chanukah. The name of Chanukah is called Chanukah, which means what's the dedication, rededication, which comes from hitchadshut. He says the same root as renewal. It's not exactly the same root. It means the same thing. Hitchadshut means becoming new. Chanukah means to dedicate, renewal, like rededicate. V'mei Chanukah mesugalim b'miyuchad leChanukah habayit. And Chanukah is especially for renewal of the home. She'or hamei b'yamim elo shel Chanukah mizbeach v'Chanukah habayit misugal. Sheyudi yitzakein berek beito mikol ha'partzot shenitava. A person should renew in their house any breaks. Any doesn't mean break-ins. It means any kind of weakening they have in terms of what the Jewish house is. V'yichanech michadash et beito, and can renew his house from the beginning. Al daito she'abim, I think dato she'ayimim or al yidei or something. She'ayab yamim ha'im she'avanim partzu gimel gil partzot beit mikdash. The Yavanim broke 13 breaks into the walls of the Beit Mikdash. So the walls of the house, which serve as a protection from the outside wall, but based upon our traditions in the home, we keep ourselves cocooned in, and we keep the outside forces outside. On Chanukah, the Yavanim broke 13 breaks into the wall of the Beit Mikdash, and on Chanukah, Gaduot HaPartzot, and on Chanukah they sealed up the breaks. V'chanchu mechadash el Beit Mikdash, they renewed the Beit Mikdash. Not only the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, of the Chanukah burning for 8 days in the Beit Mikdash happened, they actually renewed the service in the temple and renovated the Beit Mikdash. Kach b'chol, and that happened one time. Kach b'chol shana v'shana b'zman hazeh mofia or shemikocho yechol Yehudi ligdor pertzotzav v'lasot Chanukah habayit. So the power is in Chanukah on an annual basis. The same way that every Shabbat you have an opportunity for renewal, same way every Rosh Chodesh you have an opportunity for renewal. The people as a group and me as an individual. On Chanukah, the house, the Jewish home, can be renewed. And this is what it means. Mitzvat ner Chanukah ishibeito. The mitzvah of ner Chanukah is a person in their house. Ki bait hayudi, kmo she'amar Chazal, like the rabbis say, ish v'isha shchina b'nehem, zachu shchina b'nehem. A man and a wife, they can have the shchina together in their house if they're zoch, if they work together. V'hainu kedugumat Beit Mikdash shemalato him ibnei ashvat hashchina bo. And that's like the Beit Mikdash. What made the Beit Mikdash so important? The shchina was there. So gam b'beit Yudi imitnagim bo kroi. If we behave properly, who could Beit Mikdash man, it's like a small Beit Mikdash, sheish b'ashvat hashchina, that the shchina dwells in it. And imrak lo gormim chas v'chalila l'salkut hashchina, if we don't let the shchina get away. K'nechsev v'lo yer v'chol v'ras davav v'shal ma'achrach, you chase the shchina away. Ulazem urmaz ner Chanukah, and this is what ner Chanukah hints at, she'aner murkav mi'achdut hashemen v'aptila, that the ner is combined of shemen, oil, and psila is the wick. And listen, this is a very unusual kind of analogy. It's a bit of a semi-graphic analogy. V'alehem shora hashalhevet, and through the wick and the oil, the fire will burn together. Kach habayit banu b'bchinat, I didn't explain it yet really. Kach banu habayit b'bchinat shemen mashpia psila mekabelet. So the house is based upon shemen, which impacts, and psila, the shemen goes in, and the psila receives the shemen. This is almost like a graphic male-female kind of relationship. So the shemen becomes like a male figure that is active, and the psila, the wick, becomes a feminine figure which is receiving, it's passively receiving. So too the light in the menorah, which is made of the oil and the wick. The oil being the active force of the energy, the reaction will be the energy. The psila, which is receiving the wick, it pulls the wick, which is the receiving the shemen up it, right? Via ora galbeim, and on top of this wick oil mix, which you have the active oil, which is the catalyst, and you have the passive wick, which is the receptacle receiving the oil, you have what's on top of this. You have the fire of God dancing on top of this. This is the Shekhinah together. So therefore, the simile is as well, this is what the house is, a male and a female, active and passive. Please don't get me into gender issues, but you see, this is the traditional analogy. And if over time, sometimes there are difficulties there, like the Pertzot that happened in the Beit Mikdash, I think he means religious Pertzot. We don't keep our traditions the way we are. A person has to therefore do some work in their house to renew their house themselves. And this is what the Braita means. Mitzvat ner Chanukah ner b'shemeito. Mitzvat hayomim lamshich b'chazorot ashrat hashchina al beiso. A person has to bring back the Shekhinah into their house. If you weaken by keeping mitzvot in your house, there were opportunities you didn't do exactly what you should have done. You slipped a little bit. This is an opportunity to renew and time for renewal. Hashrat hashchina hi b'chol makom arui lashra. The hashrat hashchina, the dwelling of the Shekhinah, can be wherever it can be let in. And if there are pratzot, he's repeating himself, breaks in the house of the Yehudi, hamonat deshrat Shekhinah, which don't let the Shekhinah come in. Harei mitzvat achag hineri shebeito. This is the mitzvah, becomes the symbol, the remembrance of the ner shebeito. Lataken et bedek habayit lachshir liot makom lashrat Shekhinah. She'az yeshuv ner Hashem lo'yer al bayit. That we bring back God's presence in the house. V'hinei betikun bedek habayit lav kolan pin shavin. Now he says, this is the last piece he says, when it comes to doing the fixing your house up religiously, not everybody is equal. Everybody can make change. Everybody can improve their house. Everybody can make their house more Jewish. But you know what? Everybody's on their own level. Right? If a person doesn't keep Shabbat, they can keep Shabbat. If a person slides into Shabbat just at sundown, they should light candles when it's supposed to be candle lighting. If they're lighting candles when they're just lighting candle lighting, maybe they could be prepared like a half hour before. Everybody can do something. If you daven on Shabbat like you've got to catch a meeting, you can stay longer for davening on Shabbat. Everybody can improve their house. I guess I want to bring it back to the house. So everybody wants to make their house to be what it is. So everybody can make an improvement, but not everybody works on the same level.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah. Let me just finish it up. Okay, sure. 4 lines. So what one person is considered tikkun abayit, making a change in the house, that's not really a change for the other person because they're already there. A person who's on a higher level can do a higher level even higher. This is what the Brisa says. First of all, it's in the house is the mitzvah, and then in the mahadran level there's ner lekol echad v'chad. Everybody does one candle themselves, which means the symbolic chasidus, l'kol echad yesh madrega miyuchedet shel tikkun habayit. Everybody's got their own way to do tikkun habayit. Sheyadon nasa beito roi lashvat hashchina. Everybody does it on their own way. So therefore, everybody is neri shebeito, but the mahadran level is every l'kol echad v'yechad. Everybody does it their own way. Okay, question.
What is the meaning of the word shemen? You said
oil.
And Hashemonayim means.
Hashmonayim?
Yeah, isn't that the same word? Hashemonayim.
No. The word is shemen is oil.
Yeah,
Hashem and da oil.
Isn't it there?
Hashmonai comes from a different word, Hashman.
But it's.
Yeah, the shin and the mem. The shin and the nun is shin mem nun is the same. You're right.
Yeah,
true.
It sounds like the same word, no?
It does.
Does it come from the same word?
I don't believe so.
Does semen come from the same root?
I don't think so, but that's a good.
You were talking about this.
Right, it's true.
Shemen.
Yeah, good. Maybe. I don't think so, though. It's a good ha'ara. Okay, we just one other. I'll just tell you quick. It's amazing. Just one other piece about Chanukah that the Nesivos Shalom talks about. We're not getting a chance to really do it inside. The Nesivos Shalom asks, how come it was that we actually found, they found this one cruse of oil. One little pach shel shemen. And from this pach shel shemen, they were able to light for 8 days. Why? God sets up the story. Why couldn't He say they find a whole crate of oil?
Yeah, that's right.
What's the big deal? So the Nesivos Shalom says that Jewish history is all about just the almost was. we almost lost completely. We almost got wiped out. We almost were destroyed. But last minute, right? What's the Alan King line? We won, we ate. Let's go. They wanted to kill us. We killed them. We beat them. We eat. Right? Let's eat. Okay. So, but Jewish history is really almost about situations where we almost get Chalila wiped out. You can go through Jewish history one after the other. Right. The Shoah is probably the most recent example. Right. 6 million were wiped. Except guess what? Hitler was stopped in the very end, and not only that, but the Jews were already in other countries in North America where they were able to kind of ensure that they survived. But go back to the story of Chanukah and Purim. Okay, Chanukah and Purim is basically things came right down to the wire. Haman would have wiped out the Jewish people, except that he forgot that there's a Jewish queen. And it happened to be that she made a feast, and the feast happened when they did even on Pesach. But if that hadn't happened, Jewish history would have ended. Chanukah was this close. Chanukah's story is not about physically wiping out the Jewish people. It's about a different kind of destruction. It's a destruction about the Shekhinah, about spiritual destruction. So that's why it comes with the oil. Because the oil represents the light represents the Shekhinah. What he talked about Shekhinah, the light represents Shekhinah, spirituality, Beis HaMikdash, sanctity, and so forth. The sanctity almost was completely wiped out. It came down to the wire, but there was one thing they overlooked, one little cruse of oil, that was why we got through. And the Chanukah happens to be the last miracle that takes place in Jewish history, the last overt miracle. There are no miracles after that, no overt miracles. You study Jewish history, it's the last holiday we really have before the Galut of Churban HaBayit, the second temple. So this has to last us. This message of Chanukah has got to last us all the way into the dark exile that takes place when the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed and Jews are dispersed, and goes on and on and on. It's thousands of years. So the miracle happens to show us this is what Jewish history will be. It's like a premonition. Jewish history, you'll have a lot of difficult times, but every time, just when you think it's curtains, the last minute, the 11th hour, 11:59, something happens and HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us. God does not really abandon us. It looks bad, but last minute HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to save the Jewish people. It doesn't help individuals, but the people are saved. So that's the other Nesivos Shalom we didn't do. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll go back to talk about Panini Halacha.
Is this available in English?